Hola estudiantes, this is Señora Merkel, and for our first flipped video we're going to talk about subject pronouns. It's very important that you learn these quickly as soon as possible because you'll be using them all year. Alright, so it says pronouns are used to replace nouns in sentences in English, as you know, and in Spanish. A personal pronoun is associated primarily with a particular person in grammar. That's why they're called personal pronouns. And finally, personal pronouns provide the following information. 1, the person who is speaking. 2, the number. Is it more than one person speaking or just one, singular? And finally, the gender. Is it boy or boys, or is it a girl or girls? So example sentences in English are, Caroline is a very good student. In the first sentence, Caroline is the noun. It's also the subject of the sentence. If we restate the sentence and use a pronoun to replace Caroline, we would use she. So she is the subject pronoun. She is a very good student. So make sure you have your note guide out and ready to go. We're going to go ahead and fill out Part A, personal pronouns. You're going to write this English subject pronouns in the correct category according to the video. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video at this time, you're going to fill in first person, second person, and third person subject pronouns. Notice that they are highlighted in green for you. Okay, so first person pronouns represent the person speaking. So on your note guide for first person subject pronouns, you should have written I and we. For second person on your note guide, it tells you that it represents the person being spoken to, and that would be you in English. And finally, third person subject pronouns represent the person being spoken of or about. So on your note guide, make sure that you wrote for third person subject pronouns, they are he, she, and they. When a personal pronoun takes the place of a noun as the subject of a sentence, it is both a personal pronoun and a subject pronoun. So on your note guide, it asks us to define what a subject pronoun is. If you notice on the second bullet here, it tells us a subject pronoun is a word used to replace a common or proper noun as the subject in a sentence, either spoken or written. So please pause the video and fill in that part of your note guide. Okay, example sentences in English to show us again. Caroline is a very good student. We know that Caroline is the noun and also the subject. And if we want to use a pronoun to replace Caroline, we would use she as the subject pronoun. She is a very good student. Let's write both of those examples on the note guide where it asks you to do so. And go ahead and circle Caroline and she so that you see that those are connected. Okay, for part B of the note guide, it asks you to fill in the chart below by writing what each subject pronoun means in English and to include any details given. So if you notice, all of the information provided in the chart on the note guide is in blue on the chart on the screen. I want you to go ahead, pause the video, and fill in the chart by writing all of the information in red given to you and to include the details as it asks. Okay, let's go through these quickly. We'll talk about them in more detail later. Notice that in Spanish, yo means I. Tu means you, which is informal, and we'll talk more about that later. Also notice that tu has an accent over the u that must be included. It's very important. And usted also means you, but it's formal. A couple of other things if you notice. Usted can be spelled out completely, or it can be abbreviated as shown in parentheses. Either way, it's pronounced usted, and you are welcome to write it either way, and you will also see it written both ways. We have él, which means he. That accent must be included over the e, and ella, which means she. Now that is the singular side. So if there were only one person talking, these are the pronouns that would be used as your subject. Okay? On this side of the chart is plural. So if more than one person is talking or being spoken to, then you would use these plural subject pronouns. Okay? So quickly, nosotros means we. But it's we if it's a group of all boys or mixed boys and girls. Nosotras is used if it's all a group of girls talking about themselves. You would only use nosotras if it were all females. Vosotros and vosotras both mean you, plural, so it's like saying you all or you guys. Vosotros is all male or mixed males and females. And vosotras is you, plural if it's all males. Or sorry, excuse me, all females. And notice it's in Spain. It's in Spain only. Vosotros and vosotras is used, okay? And the last box says ustedes, means you, plural. This is used in Latin America. So if you're talking to a group of people, you want to use ustedes. And notice that it also has an abbreviated form, which you can write either way, spelled out or abbreviated. Both are pronounced ustedes. Ellos and ellas both mean they, but ellos is they if it's mixed or just male, and ellas if it's all females. Okay, so here we are ready for part C. It asks you to write the subject pronouns in the correct groups below. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and pause the video at this time and fill in the blanks for first, second, and third subject pronouns in Spanish, and notice they are highlighted in green. Okay, to go through these, first person pronouns represent the person speaking. So those in Spanish would be yo, nosotros, and nosotras. Okay, second person pronouns represent the person being spoken to. So if you remember, in English, the only one we had was you, but in Spanish, there are many ways to say you. There's you singular, you formal, you plural. Okay, so notice here we have options. We have tú, vosotros, vosotras, usted, and ustedes. Those all need to be listed on your note guide. And finally, the third person pronouns represent the person being spoken of or about. So those pronouns would be, in Spanish, él, ella, ellos, and ellas. Okay, so let's break these down. Okay, we're going to look at part D of the note guide where it says talking to or about. We're going to list the subject pronouns in Spanish that we need to use to talk to or about people. The first section wants us to write the subject pronouns we need when we want to talk to, or sorry, when we're talking to someone, which means when you want to say you, okay? We're going to go ahead and list the first two here. Notice there are 5 total, okay? So go ahead on your note guide and write tú for number 1 and write usted for number 2. Okay, so you would use the subject pronoun tú if you want to say you, and you want to say you're talking to someone who is just one person and you're informal with. So talking to a friend, a family member, someone younger. Okay. Use usted when you want to talk to a person you need to be formal with. Someone you don't know, someone older, someone you show respect to. Okay, and here are the other 3 for the note guide. We have vosotros, vosotras, and ustedes. Go ahead and write those 3 down. You use vosotros when you want to talk to a group, so plural, and remember it's only in Spain, so if it's a group of people who are all male or mixed and female, you would use vosotros. You would use vosotras if it's you, plural, in Spain and you're talking to a group of all females. And finally, ustedes also means you, plural, just like vosotros and vosotras, but it's used only in Latin America, and you want to use it when you're talking to a group of people. Okay, now let's do the second half of part D. Here we're going to list the pronouns we use when we talk about a person or a group of people. Let's go ahead and write the first 3 on the note guide. We have yo, él, and ella. You're going to use yo, which means I, when you're talking about yourself. Use él, which means he, when you're talking about a male. And use ella, which means she, when you're talking about a female. Okay, and the last 4 need to be written on your note guide as well. We have nosotros, nosotras, ellos, and ellas. So remember, nosotros and nosotras both mean we, but you use nosotros when you're talking about yourself and other people if it's all male or group of male and females. And nosotras only if you are a female and you're in a group of all females. You would use ellos if you're talking about a group of males or males and females, which means they, and ellas means they as well, but only when you're talking about a group of all females. Okay, practiquemos. Let's practice. What subject pronoun in Spanish should you use? I'd like you to pause the video at this time and fill in part E of your note guide and see if you can come up with the best response by writing the subject pronoun that you would need to talk to or about the different people. Okay, pause the video and then we'll go through the answers together. Okay, let's see which ones we got. It says, number 1, to talk to a classmate, you would use the subject pronoun tu. You need to use that one because, one, when you're talking to someone, you have to use a form of the word you, okay? And remember, we have a list at the top in Part D. We have 5 options to say you. And a classmate is someone you are informal with, someone you are familiar with. So you would use a familiar, which would be tu. Number 2 says to talk about your male teammates. So ellos needs to be used. Because if you're talking about someone, a group of people particular, and if they're all male, you would use ellos. Number 3, to talk to your principal. Okay, your principal is one person, and you need to be formal with them, so you would use usted. Number 4, to talk about your female cousins. So if you talk about a group of girls, you would say ellas. If you talk about yourself, and you happen to be female, and Maria, so 2 females, then you would use nosotras. And a little hint here, anytime you are included in a group, you will always use we, some form of we, okay? Either nosotros or nosotras. Number 6 says to talk to a group of children in Latin America. So remember, in Latin America, if you want to say you all or you guys, you use ustedes. Number 7, anytime you want to talk about yourself, you have to use yo. 8, to talk about a girl in class, okay, one person, and it happens to be female, you want to say ella. 9, to talk to a group of male and female students in Spain. Okay, so we have a mixture of males and females. We have to go masculine. We would say vosotros. And finally, to talk about yourself, if you're male and Martin, you would use nosotros. Because remember, anytime you are in a group, you always have to say we. All right. For part F of your note guide, it asks you to write down any questions you may have after watching the video. I'll expect you to ask your questions quickly when you come into class the next day so that we can address any of those questions and take our flipped mini quiz as soon as those questions have been addressed, okay? So here on the screen it says to write any questions you may have on your note guide and make sure you ask them as soon as class begins before the quiz. There will be a 5-point mini quiz the next day at the very beginning of class. And please take the initiative to watch the video more than once in order to fully and completely understand the content covered in the video and or to help clear up any confusion. Adios!